Hello everyone, Ceri the Crafter here, that's C-E-R-I the Crafter, and I'm here today with a little bit of an idea. Right, this is probably the starting point. I'm doing a grid journal. Now this is my grid journal. When I made the grid journal myself, and you've seen me use it a few times before. I'll explain the process of how I got to this stage, but just to plant a bit of a seed. So lately I've been delving back into my watercolors and really enjoying them. And I thought, oh, can I do watercolors in my grid journal, but in a different sort of way? Now, I don't know whether it's an original idea. I very much doubt it. Someone's bound to have done this before, but I think it's new to me. Well, I've done bits of this before, but in this concept. Anyway, I digress. Now, to get my squares, I will take things like cereal box cardboard and stuff like that, and I create templates for myself, only because I don't want to be spending all my time measuring and measuring, so I can just put this on my page, get a pencil, line it up, get a pencil, draw around it, and then I mask it off. These are 3¼ inch squares. Anyone who asks, Ceri, can we have a copy of your templates? The answer is it's not worth it, because my page sizes are probably not going to be your page sizes. So just get size of a cereal box or the back of a drawing pad or something and just make yourself a template. And I mean, I use the same one on the other side. I have seen people take things like an ink pad, put it down and draw around it. I've seen people use post-it notes as well. You could even make yourself a square of cardboard and put it down, draw around the square instead of making a whole template. It depends on how accurate you want to be. My mind is wired that I have to do things, you know me, you know me. So let me just tell you how I did this. So I put my template down. I took a permanent marker. This is a Unipen. It was a number 8, and I drew around the inside of each of the squares, and then I came in with low tack masking tape, the tape that I usually use for anything I'm taping down. Even though it's low tack, I still use a warm hairdryer to peel it off. Then I put this down. Now the idea is I want to make almost a miniature grid journaling sort of watercolor coloring book type of scenario. So I'm going to stamp into this, and I want to stamp in such a way, and I'm going to stamp with archival ink because it's the one I prefer to use, and I want to stamp into the areas here. Now, I know that the pages are never going to be absolutely flat to press upon, so I wouldn't be surprised if I don't have some areas that don't stamp perfectly. I'm not going to worry about that. I mean, if I really wanted to worry, I could get something like a cutting mat, and I could put the cutting mat underneath it to actually guess that. That's probably not a bad idea. Maybe I'll work on one side, then flip to the other side, or just flip around. But I mean, you don't need to. Like the back one is near the back cover, so I'm not worried about that. So what am I going to stamp? Well, I have been through my entire selection of stamps, both clear and rubber. I haven't used foam stamps for this. And I pulled out, and this is only part of them, I have pulled out any stamps that I've got that have got flowers or any leaves or anything like that. I've tried to steer clear of insects and butterflies and stuff like that. If there's 1 or 2 bees on these collections, I'm not going to use them. And also some of these, like this one here, is quite a solid image. I want ones that I can actually paint in, because I want to create images that I can paint with my watercolors. I also pulled in a few red rubber, well, these are grey rubber stamps that I've had. They're not backed, they're not mounted, so I'm going to have to put them onto a block. And the way I do that is, because they're not sticky, is I put a little bit of a Pritt stick in the back, on the back of it. It just holds it in place. And then I had a job lot from an eBay auction the other day where I've got all these, which I haven't used either. So there's lots and lots and lots of things that I can reach for. And my aim is to stamp. Now, for me personally, I'm going to set a few parameters. The flowers and the leaves can come in any direction they wish. They don't have to be portraits there. I want floral design squares. Probably a bit reminiscent. I'm thinking of spring here. I mean, my garden looks a bit forlorn, to be honest. I can see it from my window, and it's all just everything's dying off and the leaves have turned, which are beautiful, but my garden's going. I'm only going to use black. I'm going to stamp on, and then what I'm going to do is I've got some bits of spare paper so that if I'm, say, stamping this square here, and this stamp would go over there and go onto this one, at least this would then protect the one underneath it. I'm wondering whether that's the right stuff to use. That's newspaper print. I wonder it might go through that. I might just get myself another sheet of paper. Back in a second. Right, I've just got myself another sheet of paper that's a bit more robust, should I say, because I would hate to stamp and then find it soaked through the newsprint paper. So there is no real plan, guys. I'm just going to go for it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to work through these, and then I'm going to try and not repeat the flower more than a couple of times. I don't want to do the same flower all over the place. I just want to have fun with this. So let's just start this one. Right, let's pull these out. If you're going to ask me where I found these flowers stamps from, I have been collecting my stamps for years and years and years. A lot of the time I'll get them on eBay auctions, or friends will give them to me because they no longer need them or no longer want them. So that's where most of my stamps come from. What I do is I very often will take the stamps, and I will take only the stamps I want out of a stamp set or collection, and then I will pass the rest on and only keep the ones I like. So I can go there. See, now I don't mind that it didn't stamp properly there. That's fine with me. Now I want to put this one somewhere else as well because it's one of my favorites. I did say I'm not allowed to stamp more than, say, 2 or 3 times with it. So I'm doing okay. They're my rules. So, and there are no rules in art, as we know. So let's just call them my guidelines. Now, if I stamp this in a slightly different way, it will look slightly different. Right, making sure I press it down evenly. There you go, and just stamp it off, and then this goes to one side. Right, let's see what the next one's going to be. Maybe we'll have, come out there, just a random stamp on its flower on its own. Now, what I would say is my intent is to do this piece and watercolour all of the flowers in. Am I going to watercolour them in with you all watching me? No. I'm going to probably watercolour maybe one of the squares in so we can see how it looks, but I am not going to stand here watercolouring and creating a video that's probably going to be hours and hours long. So I will actually do one square with you, and then I will pause the video probably for at least 24 hours. There's nothing more on there, I won't know. At least 24 hours, and then I will come back and show you the finished results. Now, things like this I'm not going to use because I want things I can paint in. Right, these will work. I know these will work. I use these all the time. So just a bit of a fun exercise, really. I thought it would be an interesting way to create a colouring page. And then what I'll do is this is mixed media paper. It is not watercolour paper, so I'm going to have to be a little bit careful with how I do the techniques in it. Wet on wet is probably going to be something I'm going to have to be very careful about because I didn't print it all. That doesn't matter. I will fill it in with another flower. And the reason I'm going to be a bit cautious with wet on here is because what happens is the paper will buckle. There you go, stamped nicely. Why is it this side with the good thing underneath it isn't stamping as well? Let's take this back out. We're going to try it without that. So, right, I've done that twice. I don't want to do that more than twice. It's a big dominant piece. Let's take it out of here. So it's just a fun way, I think, to pull out some of the stamps I don't normally use. I'm going to put these all on one stamp, these. I'm going to make a stamp out of stamps. Just to give myself a little bit of something to play with. So there, I've just done the collection of stamps on there. Let's just get these stamped down. So yeah, just wanted to play really. If I must be completely honest, my brain is already in 2026 because I've been planning lots of stuff for 2026. I'll see it's done better that time. And obviously I have to plan ahead. I can't just turn up on the 1st of January and everything's magically done. I need to actually make sure it is done. And the only person working for me is me. That's okay, right? I might come in here and see if I can't just add some sort of floral something in there just to replace what's missing. Okay, I can do that because I can colour the other bit green, that's fine. So, there you go. So I think I'm just going to go silent for a bit, guys, because I don't have a lot to say today. I know, shocker, Ceri without anything to say. And I think this is just a process that, to be honest with you, I could speed the video up. I'll probably do it 2 times. Do you know what I mean? There won't be music because you know me, I don't like music in videos. Just a personal choice, nothing against people who do it. Come on, open up. I just prefer not to do it myself. So I won't put music. I will just literally drop the volume down a bit. So, gosh, that was sticky. So that if you hear the clicking of me putting ink onto paper, onto the ink pad, then it won't sound like a woodpecker in the background. It'll sound hopefully okay to you. There you go. So that took about half an hour. Now, as I said, I wasn't picky. I wanted blocks of florals, just so I'll wipe extra ink off my hands, just so that I don't touch any of the pages. So the next thing I need to do now is I want to take off the tape, and it'll actually reveal to me what I've got on there. Now, one of the stamps, this one here, stamped very faintly. I don't mind that, because what I can do is I can put a more intense colour into that flower, which will change them, or I could take a pen and I could actually just draw over the top of it. The illusion I'm kind of going for is maybe floral tiles. Do you know what I mean? As I said, I didn't care which orientation they were in. I am going to paint the backgrounds in as I do them, which you'll see on one of them. I'm not sure which one I'm going to do. I might do this one, to be honest with you, because I might be able to get it done quite quickly. So you're going to bear with me again now, because I'm going to take the tape off, but to do it, I'm going to use my hairdryer, just a travel hairdryer, just to warm the tape up, and then that softens the glue, and it hopefully means I won't tear the page. I will speed it up ever so slightly, probably about twice as fast as it's normally going, and I'll drop the noise down because nobody needs to hear a hairdryer going. So, noise is going off, guys. And I'm back, and I'm very happy with how those turned out. So, I don't forget, guys, you could have done this with butterflies, you could have done with fish, you could have done with shells, you could have done it with people, you could have done anything. I just chose florals because I thought it would be a nice thing to look at as I'm doing. So I'm happy with that. So, I mean, I could have gone through the entire book and made my own colouring book if I wanted. I mean, it depends on what stamps you've got. I mean, this was just a selection of stamps from the amount that I showed you, just looking for things that have got wider expanses for me to actually work in. Now, I think the next thing I'm going to do is pull out some watercolours. So I'm going to move this over because I think I am going to work on this one. I should be able to get it done quite quickly. And I'm back. Okay, so over to my one side, you're not probably going to be able to see everything, but I'm going to do what I can for you guys. So I've got, it's a Paul Rubens watercolor set that I think I reviewed quite a while ago. A couple of ceramic palettes. I've got 2 jars of water. I've got a cloth to wipe my brush off with, and I've got a number 5 watercolor brush. So basically what I want to do is I'm going to work on one square. Now, some of you are probably going to mention, Ceri, why didn't you leave the tape on? I like using tape, but when I'm using watercolor, if I get to the edge of the tape and the water goes under, it could run along underneath the water, under the tape, or move out, leave me odd marks. If I can see I've gone over the line, I could do something about it just by lifting it off with a bit of clean kitchen paper, or I might just decide to leave it. So, right, let's just have a look at this one here. So I'm not going to be able to work wet on wet. But I am going to be able to use water. So I just want a really, really light wash, and I'm just trying to give myself a bit of a background for these flowers and foliage. Am I concerned it's painted perfectly? No. In fact, I'd rather it was a little bit painty, if that makes sense to anyone but me. I just want a hint of colour in here so that it doesn't look just like absolute just white boxes with flowers stuck in them. So I'm just coming in. Now, as I say in every video that I do watercolors in, guys, I am a guy learning watercolors. I'm not in any way qualified to tell someone how to paint watercolors. I've just learnt by watching other people, a couple of really good books, some of which I've shared on this channel, as you know, like the Kate Rebecca Leach books, and just basically watching other people. So just trying to get some colour into the gaps where I want them. Now, the reason I like this sort of process is that obviously watercolours react with water. So even though I'm getting this in and it's a wet on dry process, I should be able to come in with a wet paintbrush and blend some of these edges out. And if I can't, I can't. As I said, it doesn't bother me. I'm looking for something that is obviously painty. So I've got that. I get a clean brush. I'll wipe off some of the water. And I usually do little circular motions. And it just reactivates and softens any hard edges. Does it bother me if it goes over the edge of the flower? No, not at all. I don't even mind there being little white bits. In fact, I quite like the little white bits. It's one of my aims in life, is to learn to leave the little white bits alone. I tend to just paint over everything, pretty much as I am at the moment. So there you go, just subtly moving it around. I quite like it when watercolour dries and has like that blotchy appearance. Also, the more water you add, the lighter it will be. Now, normally I would let this dry before I attempted to paint the flowers, because obviously one will seep into the other, but I think I'm okay at the moment. Right, I'm going to come in. I'm going to take a little bit of that yellow from there. Now there's a little bit of blue on my brush, so I want to make sure that I don't turn that to a lime green, so let's put a little bit of that into it. That should liven that up. Now, I'm going to work on one flower at a time. I'm not intending to paint the entire petal in, because what I want to do is I want to paint this much of it in, then get myself a clean brush and then use just the dampness of the brush to transfer that colour to the edges of the stamped image, for no other reason than it just gives me a little bit of light and shade. I just noticed I didn't paint that little bit in there. It doesn't matter. And I might come back to that one in a moment. I'd quite like to do a couple of these others in yellow. Again, just placing some colour in, taking a slightly damp brush that I've wiped off and taking the colours out to the edge. Let's see, let's bring in a little bit of an orange, I think. Orange, that might be orange enough. I'm going to bring in this piece here in a darker colour. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm going to touch that darker colour down, because this one is wet over here. I'm just going to let it work its way along the petals, just by absorbing out. So I might do the same in the middle of these petals actually. Okay, right, I want to come in with a bit of green now. If I'm off shot over here, guys, I'm sorry, but I can't get everything in screen. So I want my green leaves to be very, very pale. So I've only really got one leaf here. And then I'm going to come in and touch the bottom of the other pieces. I've got some paint on there. Yeah, the delicate nature of watercolour eludes me sometimes. And it is just purely, as with any practice, it's a case of practice, practice, practice. That's all you can do to make it work for you. Right, I've just noticed I don't like the harsh line that the edge of those are drying into, but that's fine. And I think as I take a little bit of that green, drop it into the middle of there. Take a little bit more of that green actually. And just drop it into the wet leaves. You can now see why I don't intend doing this whole piece with you watching. There's just, it would take hours. Well, this is probably going to take me at least the rest of the day to complete. I know that. If not, well, it depends on how the daylight holds up. I think I'm going to come in with that yellow again and just touch off these here. That's enough. Now, because of the colours I've got here, I've got yellows. I think I'm going to go to pinks or purples for the other flowers. So it's coming up here, that's sort of a pinky purple colour. I want that a little pinker than that. And I don't want it so thick. Sorry, I mutter to myself when I'm doing watercolours. So I'm just going to come in and just get some colour into the edges of those petals. I'm using the ends of these petals almost like a reservoir of colour. Just then I'm going to come in with a damp paintbrush, but it's clean, nothing on it, and I'm going to pull that colour down a bit. And after I've done each petal, I'm going to wipe away the tip of my brush, or otherwise I'm just carrying paint from one petal to the next, which is not the look I'm looking for. The other thing I like about watercolours is you can layer them up. So I'm going to come in a little bit more there because I like that a little bit darker. And that's because it's in the shade. I think that'll be enough. Now that one isn't pink, but that one probably needs to be pink as well because it's on the same flower stem. So I'm just going to repeat that as a process. Colour on my tips of my petals. Now I would say when you do watercolours, set yourself some time. I find it a very mindful, relaxing process. Art to me can sometimes feel a little stressful if I'm focused too much on it. But the one thing I would say with watercolours, I don't ever feel stressed. I just do it. I think it's the one medium that I found, right, and just go, it's okay, I'm just going to do it. Oops, drop the brush, Griffiths. Now don't forget here, I'm not working with watercolour paper, so the absorbency is different, the drying time is different. I think I probably should have done half the petals and then the other half of the petals. I shouldn't have put pink on all of them straight away, because they're drying out on me quicker than I can paint them. I think I want to put a little bit more on the end of some of these. I've lost the vibrancy. And if you put too much on, if you dry off your brush, a thirsty brush will lift some back out again. It's another thing I like to do with these. Okay, right, I just need to do those two there. And what's the one going to be in the middle there? It can't be yellow. Well, it could be yellow, but it's not going to be yellow. See, it looks like a snowdrop to me, so I keep thinking it needs to be white. I need these two done down here as well. So let's just pick up a colour. Let's bring in orange. Orange is sort of the same family. If I mix it with a little bit of yellow, we should be okay. I'm just going to paint these in. That's a bit intense. Now, something else you could have done here is you could have stamped text into the background. You could have stamped, well, you could have stamped anything into the background. What am I saying? These are a little bit of orange as well. I think that'll do. Is it perfect? No. Was it going to be perfect? No. Do I care whether it's perfect? No. It's purely play for me. A little around the edge is annoying. And a little bit there that needs to go away as well. So that's what I'm planning to do, guys. That's my aim. I'm going to go around and fill all of these in, and the next time you see it will be done. And I'm just going to use exactly the same process as you saw all the way along. And I'm back. Okay, we had some severe storms last night, thunder, the whole shenanigans, and this morning it's still really grey and dark out there, so I'm hoping this shows up really well. It's the best I can do. So you may think I'm being a bit over dramatic by covering everything, but I am so pleased with how this turned out. I want to have the joy of the reveal. Now, you saw me do this little piece here. Now, there are a couple of things I have done. Obviously, I painted everything else. Now, you may remember this square here when I stamped it. There was a big patch that didn't stamp correctly. When I finished, I was like, I don't like that. And I tried to adjust it. It didn't work. So in the end, did what we always do. It's a garden scene. I put a butterfly on it, and I love the butterfly so much. I put a couple of other ones on this. So when you look at it, you're going to go, oh, okay. This took me quite a while to paint. But as I said, I'm so happy. So let's just get on with it, Griffiths, shall we? So here we go. Is that not amazing? I mean, I'm going to hold it up in a second so we can look at each of the individual squares. Now, when I was stamping, I didn't mention it to you, but I did feel a little uncomfortable. I wasn't considering composition like this square here. I just stamped. And I trusted the process. And to be honest with you, I love it. Whereas my inner me was going, Ceri, that's going to look awful if you don't do composition. So we quietened that little voice for a bit. So I love where this came from. So it's all watercolors. So I'm going to bring them up so hopefully you can see each of them in turn. As you can see, I kept quite simple techniques. I didn't go overboard with the shading of flowers. I did a little bit, but the trouble was, as I said, this isn't watercolor paper. So I was struggling. This is the one, the yellow one with the dark butterfly that had that blotch I didn't enjoy, or the blank space. So anyway, as I was saying, I was struggling to do wet on wet to get the different colors into the flowers, purely because it wasn't watercolor paper, and the more water I added, I know it would buckle. So I'm still very, very happy with that. That was a nice, refreshing exercise, which I may repeat in the future. I mean, I chose flowers here. I could have done all of this just using my butterfly stamps and painted all the different butterflies in. You could do, as I think I've said before, you could do fish and seashells, sea creatures. You could do anything you can stamp, you could do. And I just loved it. It was a very mindful, restful thing to do, and I so enjoyed doing it. And I will do this again. Probably not as a video because I've done one already, but there you go, guys. Simple techniques. It was as simple as marking out the squares, stamping with permanent ink, and just going to town and painting. Oh, one thing I did do, right, you saw me do this on live with you. When I did the rest of them, and it might be something you might consider, I painted all of the backgrounds before I started painting the flowers. So basically, where are we? If there was a yellow one here, I did a yellow one here. If there was a blue one here, I did a blue and a blue. I did a green, a green, a green. I did a peachy sort of orangey colour, and that was just a bit of the last bit that was on the brush. So I did all the backgrounds and then just enjoyed working on it. So I hope you enjoyed that, guys. It was something slightly different. Certainly a different addition to my grid journal. I mean, to be honest with you, if you don't want to do a grid journal, I mean, these were 3¼ inch squares of mixed media paper. You could just make a square and do what I did, stamp randomly on it and paint it in, just as a playful exercise. It could then go into an art journal, or it could just be something you just keep that makes you smile. That's what a lot of my art does for me, and I enjoy it. So guys, time for me to go. I'm Ceri the Crafter. That's Ceri the Crafter. Until next time. Goodbye now.